My mother is originally from just below Montgomery in a little place called Hopewell. Just about everybody in that area know the Dean family. There were 8 children in that family, so everybody in that area basically knows my mother. My stepfather is from Ohio, I think. I don't know too much about all of his relatives, but they've been in the Birmingham area for about 47 years.
So did they meet in Birmingham?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And how many brothers and sisters?
I have 2 brothers.
2 brothers?
Yes.
And you are?
I am the oldest.
The oldest?
Yes.
Okay, well, I know you gave your brothers a hard time.
They gave me the hard time.
Where did you start your schooling, your first grade? Where did you start first grade?
I did first grade at a school called Hooper City High.
Hooper City.
Yes.
Was Hooper City then from K through 1 through 12?
I think it was 1 through 12. I don't even know if it's still there, because that's been a long time ago.
No, the school is not still there.
Okay, okay.
The community is there.
Right, right.
I remember we played Hooper City when I was in high school.
Okay.
And you went from Hooper City to what
Center
school?
Street Elementary.
To Center Street Elementary. Okay, that's right here in the city.
Exactly.
Hooper City was a county school, right?
Right, right.
Your family moved from Hooper City to
The
Titusville?
Green Spring area, Titusville,
Okay.
in Honeysuckle Circle.
Oh, okay. So you moved up in the world.
A bit, yes.
What do you remember about your community at that time, just growing up in Honeysuckle Circle?
It was a much safer place to be than it is today. As children, we could get out in the street. We used to have relay races in the afternoons. Everybody watched out for everybody else. And your neighbors were just like your parents also. If they caught you doing something wrong, they didn't just tell your mother. Sometimes they could take the responsibility for spanking too. Or if they told your parents, sometimes you'd get 2 spankings, you know. One from the neighbor, and then that's right, that's right. So it was a very good community. Many of the people in that area have died out. Some of them are still there, and it's good to go by and wave at the older ones that you remember from your childhood.
What kind of occupations did your parents have?
My mother started out doing domestic work. Then in later years, she became a monogrammer because she was a very good seamstress. She used to make all my clothing, all the drapes for the house. She worked at a shop, the Coca-Cola labels that you see, the people who work for the different franchises here in Birmingham, she'd make all the labels for the uniforms. My stepfather worked for Ryder Trucking Company.
Okay. Did your mother work at home, or did she work for
Outside
Coca-Cola?
of the home. It was like similar to a laundromat or something, and they had the contract to do the labels for these different companies in the area.
What did your stepfather do for Ryder? Did he drive?
No, he handled freight, the loading of the various trucks or whatever.
I see. How much education did they have?
My mother, to be the smart woman she is, never really finished high school. Being from the Hopewell, Montgomery area, she lived on a farm, and back in those days, in many instances, even if you were in school, very often you had to leave during harvesting season to assist with the planting or whatever. My stepfather did complete high school, but that's about the extent of his education.
What about others in your community, other occupations in the community that you lived?
Many of the women, if I remember, were domestic workers. Mrs. Hendricks, whom I'm sure you're familiar with, she worked with the federal government until retirement, I think. There were various, there was Miss Harris, who was a school teacher. So, there were varied numbers of...
It's a variety of occupations in the community.
Exactly.
Yeah, I remember growing up on the western section of Birmingham, and we thought everyone that lived in the Honeysuckle Circle area, they were rich, because you had those pretty brick homes.
Yes.
That was one of our aspirations, to be able to move to the circle.
Well, we do have to we owe our stepfather a lot for putting us in that area. So we're very grateful to him for that.
And you went on to what high school?
I attended Ullman High School.
Ullman High
Yes,
School.
George C. Bell.
Okay. What kind of memories do you have of your experiences at Ullman?
I still see a few of my classmates occasionally. I've not had the opportunity to come back for class reunions or whatever, but my fondest memory is of George C. Bell, the principal. And I guess it's because I went all to my senior year without missing a day, because I loved going to school. If I was ill, Mother would say, "Bunny, stay home." That's what they called me, Bunny. Stay home, and as soon as she went to work, then I'd get up and go to school. And I was supposed to get that perfect attendance record at graduation. And I remember him teasing me, saying, "You've gone this far, now don't come to the last day and be absent." But it was also George C. Bell who entered me in various oratorical contests. And he would meet me in the hall and make me stand there and say my presentation, whether it was the creation or whatever it was I was doing for that contest. And it was George C. Bell who made me articulate and enunciate and win several oratorical contests.
So you have very fond memories then of George C. Bell and Ullman High School.
Unlike a lot of other classmates of mine, because he could be very dictatorial, tyrannical. He did not play at all.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, but very fond memories of him.
Ullman High, being on the south side of town versus Parker High on the north side, do you remember any rivalry between the two schools?
Football, yes, football rivalry.
Yes.
I have a few friends who attended Parker High. Betty Gamble, who is currently a captain on the police force here, and her brother Ed Gamble, who's in Oklahoma. I have cousins who also attended Parker. But yes, I remember the football rivalry.
Right.
As a matter of fact, I think there were several fights that broke out at these football games because of that school rivalry.
Yeah, that was probably the number one rival in the county. Was
Exactly.
Parker and Ullman.
Exactly.
Yes. What did you do after you finished high school?
I came to Miles, actually. I attended this university for 1 year. As a matter of fact, the current mayor taught biology here. He was my biology teacher here at Miles.
Right. And was biology your major at the time?
No. Yeah. Undergraduate, I majored in English.
Okay. So Miles, then what was the transition like from high school at Ullman to college here at Miles?
It was a very easy transition for me because several of my classmates, Hazel Loretta Brown and Cleopatra Gibson, the three of us would commute every day from the Birmingham area to Miles. And we made quite a few friends. Although I couldn't play an instrument, I was part of the band.
How were you a part of the band?
I carried a trumpet. Boss is what we used to call the band director then. Said his band was a marching band, and he took pride in the fact that we were good marchers. So I was on the tail end of the trumpet section, carrying a trumpet.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
So if we see that young woman on the tail end, she's in perfect step, but she hadn't
not
played
playing
a
a
note.
thing. That's right. That's right.
Yes. You say you commuted, you drive?
Yes.
Okay.
We drove.
Well,
Cleo drove. She was the only one with a car.
okay. All right. I was wondering if all of you had
No.
cars at that time. So, then you were here at Miles when during the early 60s, mid-60s, the demonstrations of 63 came along. How, in fact, did you get involved in the movement?
I remember Andrew Young and James Bevel and I think Jose Williams came out to an assembly to speak to the students here at Miles. And their ultimate aim was to get students involved in the movement. They were having a mass meeting that night and we were being invited. And I can remember my fellow classmates sitting around being what I thought very apathetic toward what they were saying. As a matter of fact, several of my classmates said to me that they were not going to get involved that they felt that getting an education was more important. And of course, I could not argue with that. I made the choice. Their apathy made me jump up to the microphone and do my spiel concerning their apathy, telling them why I thought we should participate in the movement by attending these mass meetings and at least giving the people a chance to see what they had to say. But many of them told me that it was up to me, that I could go on and be a part of, but they were going to stay here and get their education. And for the most part, most of them did.
Were there others that did join you and became actively involved?
I'm certain that there were, because at the time I didn't know everybody here on the campus, but with the group that I ran around with, I was the only one.
Mm-hmm. The previous year, that was probably 62, 63 school year.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the year that you?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So that year, and there was a selective buy-in campaign that Miles College students took part in. Mm-hmm. Were you at all associated with that?
Yes, yes I was.
Can you tell me a little about how that all evolved?
Well, if I can remember, that's been a long time ago. Those stores or whatever that were not favorable toward our goals and doing whatever it was we were trying to do at the time, our idea was not to buy from those stores. Of course, we all had to live, we all needed things, so selective buying meant that you dealt with those people who were for the cause that we were.
Mm-hmm. And were there issues on campus that you had been involved in prior to Hosea Williams and Young and Bevel coming out? Were you active in student government, anything other than the band at that particular time?
No, just the band.
Okay.
The interesting thing is in listening to those guys, I've always been a people person. And my husband teases me now, when we watch football or baseball, it doesn't matter what team is playing, I'm always going to go for the underdog. And in my mind, as a race, we were the underdog. And if there were people out there trying to do something about it, then I wanted to be a part of. Even though I was not involved in any, I was not a part of the NAACP, I was not a part of anything, but their message touched me.
Immediately?
Immediately. And their suggestion was that we attend the mass meeting that night. And I can't remember, but I think it was going to be held at 6th Avenue Baptist Church or something like that. But they invited us to attend that mass meeting and learn more about the movement, to come, so that we could become involved. And just listening to their movement made me want to know more. And from that first mass meeting on, whatever I could do to be a part of that movement, I was there.
Were there, at this, I assume this was at an assembly?
Yes.
At the assembly program. Were teachers of yours supportive of your position of getting involved, or do you remember, were there any relationships?
I can remember some of the teachers saying things that you do what you want to do as long as you keep up with your studies. Excuse me. To tell you the truth, I found it very difficult to do both, because once I got involved, I was totally involved. And as a matter of fact, I finished that semester and I joined the movement completely.
Was that your first semester?
My first year. I finished that year.
You finished the year?
Yes.
And then you
I joined the movement. Yes. Yes.
Okay. While you were a student, though, you did become active, and you said that you attended mass meetings. Mm-hmm. Can you tell me what a typical mass meeting was like?
I'm trying to remember some of the key players. I remember Wyatt Walker, I remember C.T. Vivian, of course James Bevel and Andrew Young. These guys would get up initially and we would sing the songs of the movement, We Shall Overcome, those kinds of things. Then Dr. King was not at every mass meeting because he traveled quite a bit. But sometimes a mass meeting would be conducted by some local guys, or it would be conducted by Andrew Young or Bevel or whomever. And they would just map out strategies, you know, what it was that we intended to do. I don't know if you remember, there was a big day called D-Day here in Birmingham, where all the students turned out or whatever. But strategies were talked about during many of these mass meetings. Sometimes it was just a sermon, you know, talking about what was going on, and a lot of singing and getting people involved more than anything else.
Were you able then to attract other friends to attend the meetings with you, and were they impacted upon in the same manner that you?
The friends that I had or that were with me here at Miles, they never became a part of the movement. Now, of course, I made a lot of friends as a result of being in the movement, but the friends that I had, people that I call friend, were never a part of the movement. Now, I've had some friends to come up later and pretend to have been a part of the movement, but no, they didn't.
That's
I was on my own.
That's interesting. You saying there were people who were not involved, but 20 years later, they were very much participants.
Exactly.
According to them.
Yes.